Hey, Chris.
Hey, how you doing, Kenny? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay, great. So, do you want to be on video, or do you want to be you not want to be on video, or how do you want to do it?
It doesn't matter to me. I can be on video because I'm on my phone as well. It's just the lighting's not really great here at my house, just because it's getting really dark and I'm in the living room right now. So as long as
okay, yeah, that's fine. So let's just go ahead and begin. And I want to start by saying Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, peace and blessings upon each and every one who hears or sees this video. This is going to be a discussion between me and Chris Claus on abrogation in the Quran regarding alcohol. So I'm the author of the book, Consider Islam, Disproving the Patriots of Propaganda. This conversation actually began because I called in to Patriot Radio where Chris was filling in for the regular host, and he was discussing alcohol in the Quran. And so I just happened to listen to a few things that he was saying, and I called in spontaneously. But so, Chris, go ahead and introduce yourself and voice what your objective is and all this, where your position on all this. And as I mentioned before, I said that I would give you plenty of time, take as much time as you'd like to present your objections or your contention or whatever your concerns are. Take as much time as you like, and then afterwards I'll respond, and we'll discuss it back and forth after I respond to you, inshallah. So yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself, and if you'd like, or you have anything you'd like to say before you actually begin, feel free to do so.
All right, well, thank you very much, Kenny. I do want to thank you for your patience this evening. I did have a little bit of troubles tonight at a hockey game I had to take my daughter to, and Kenny was gracious enough to allow me to go to the hockey game and to have this conversation after. So I do thank you very much for your patience.
That's not a problem. Family certainly comes first, alhamdulillah.
Oh, for sure. So again, my name is Chris Claus. Me and Kenny did have this conversation on Sunday about abrogation in the Quran. Now, I was speaking on abrogation in general, but I used alcohol as an example of abrogation in the Quran. I believe that there's more than just the alcohol that has been abrogated in the Quran. But of course, just for this conversation, the alcohol abrogation is perfectly fine. So what I was saying was, in the Quran, it come to a point where, of course, Muslims were allowed to drink. Then it come to a point where they were not allowed to come to prayers when they've been drinking. And then it got even further than that. I would actually say after the Battle of Uhud, when there's people caught drinking and it didn't go very well and they died with alcohol in their bellies, I would say that this is the reason for the final condemnation on the alcohol, where Muslims were not allowed to drink it at all. So not even just drinking before prayer, it was simply, it's not allowed at all. So what I call this is a three-step process, where it's basically two, but I'm saying that the first step where Muslims were able to drink being step one, but we could go just with two-step process where they eliminated, or where the Quran, or sorry, Muhammad would have eliminated the alcohol just before prayer, and then a little while later on eliminated alcohol totally. Now, speaking in abrogation though, I am under the understanding that if a verse is abrogated, the verse that came first is null and void. So that verse doesn't apply anymore. So as in saying, the first abrogated verse would have been that they weren't allowed to drink before prayer. But after Muhammad abrogated it and said that there was no alcohol at all, that means that Muslims still were not allowed to have alcohol at all, not simply just before praying. It was completely forbidden. So the revelation that he was given before, where you can simply just drink, but you can't come to prayers with drinking, that's null and void. of course, right? And the new ruling where alcohol is not allowed is the new rule for Muslims. Now, I would take question to this because me and Kenny were talking, well, what if a new Muslim just come into Islam and he's an alcoholic? Does he have to quit drinking that day? Of course, it being a sin, and he'd have to forgive for it, but that's still, he would have to try to stop drinking right from that day. It would have to be a conscious thing. It's not like he could have 2 or 3 drinks that night and be like, oh, well, better ask for forgiveness to Allah. And then the next day have 2 or 3 more. Oh, I better ask for forgiveness again. You know, it can't be that type of thing. And I don't think that you would believe that as well, Kenny. So my question would be, though, if an alcoholic today said his shahada, why wouldn't he be allowed the 2-step process that Muslims had in the Quran? Why is it right to it's forbidden, of course, right? Now, what is your view on that so far, Kenny?
Well, I want you to complete your entire comment, if you would, Chris, and then we'll proceed after that. I want you to be able to fully explain your position and what your objective is, and even discussing this on Patriot Radio the other day, and what your contention is. I want you to be able to just fully explain it in the like you did the other day.
Well, then I'm going to have to go into a little bit more than just the abrogation of alcohol, of course, right?
Well, not necessarily, because the topic that we're discussing is alcohol. So let's stick to that. We can certainly have another discussion about other verses that are perceived as being abrogated at a later date. But let's focus on this alcohol thing, because it's a very serious issue, and I'd just like to know fully where you stand on it. Give you plenty of time to speak before I present my position.
Well, again, I gave a 15-minute presentation on abrogation, and then the last 4 minutes of that presentation was the abrogation of alcohol, because I believe that there's much more in the Quran. I think it's very troublesome for an all-knowing God to be able to even have a term of abrogation. Of course, that being revealing a better verse and or eliminating a verse even. And that's what we see within the alcohol, is that the verse that was revealed about drinking before prayer, that would have been eliminated, because it would have been abrogated by there's no more alcohol.
I'll just intervene just real quick in regards to, I know our discussion was centered around early Muslims as compared to the stipulations for the modern day Muslims. Maybe focus on that a little bit in regards to what your position is on that, if you would. I mean, say what you want to, alhamdulillah, but just go ahead. I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, but the thing is that it does go hand in hand with the question that I asked about today's Muslim, the alcoholic Muslim that says his shahada today, of course, right? Because when you look at the Quran, you have to realize that when a verse is abrogated, the verse that it abrogates no longer is null and void. It doesn't apply anymore, right? And that's the whole key to this, because if that's the truth, then a new Muslim coming into Islam, alcohol is forbidden. And of course, maybe he may make a mistake. He may slip up. He may fall off the wagon, whatever people type to say. And he may have a drink. He may have 2. But then he's back in it and he's going hard, right? But that doesn't allow the 2-step process of what the Muslims at Muhammad's time had. Now, a lot of times I hear that Allah knew that they were weak, and so that he eliminated the alcohol in stages, so that the Muslims were able to rid themselves of the alcohol, and it wasn't like a huge burden on them that they couldn't overcome, of course, right? So, but if that's the case, wouldn't those same people be just as weak today? Wouldn't an all-knowing God know that that would happen today? And if so, why isn't he allowing the same process as he did as the Muslims at Muhammad's time? So go ahead, Kenny.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, Chris, I appreciate you allowing me the opportunity to share the truth and the beauty of Islam. Alhamdulillah. Before I begin, I want to say La ilaha illallah wa shahadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. I bear witness there's no God other than Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his final servant and seal of all prophets. And Allah tells us in the Quran to come to common terms whenever we're dealing with Christians, to come to common terms. So I want to let it be known to anyone who may see this or listen to this video that we as Muslims do believe in Jesus, the Son of Mary. We do believe he is the Messiah. We do believe that he will return before the day of judgment. And alhamdulillah. So we do have things that we do mutually agree on. We have many things that we disagree on. But Allah says in the Quran, he says in the Quran, he it is who revealed to you the book in the scripture wherein are clear revelations, and there the book. And there are others which are allegorical, but those in whose hearts is doubt pursue and forsooth that which is allegorical, seeking to cause dissension by seeking to explain it. And so what we have here is a situation where, no offense, Chris, but we have all the time we have a situation where non-Muslims are trying to explain to Muslims what Muslims believe, and people are spending very, very little time actually studying and being around Islam in regards to Christians or non-Muslims or atheists. And they're trying to explain to Muslims what Muslims believe. And so that's the situation that we have here. So what I want to do is I want to discuss what abrogation actually means. It means to annul and completely nullify and to do away with. But that's not the case with these verses in the Quran. I want to make mention that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the Quran will exist unchanged until the day of judgment. There's verses in the Quran that reveal this, that the Quran will go unchanged until the day of judgment. And so therefore, nothing within the Quran is not relevant. It's all relevant. It's all from our God and Creator, who knows us better than we know ourselves. So the word abrogation is nashk in the Arabic language. And so in Islamic terminology, this verse, this term doesn't mean that the verses of the Quran are canceled or negated, which would be nothing. But rather it means that one rule has been replaced by another or something similar to it. Okay, so let's start with Surah Al-Baqarah. It says, it says, we do not abrogate a verse to cause it to be forgotten, except that we bring forth one better or one similar to it. Do you not know that Allah has power over all things? Alhamdulillah. And so, also, there's another verse in Surah Al-Nahl. It says, when we substitute a verse in place of a verse, and Allah is the most knowing of what he sends down, they say, you're but a forger, but most of them do not know. Alhamdulillah. And so what we have here is a situation where in the days of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, as I mentioned on the show, that the Arabs of that time were very, very bad alcoholics. Alcoholism was very, very prominent. And so initially, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the verse. They ask you about wine and gambling, and they say in them are great sin, and there's some benefit for people, but their sin is greater than the benefit. And so what it's demonstrating is that let's take alcohol, someone who's selling alcohol. Of course, they make profit off the alcohol. When you consume alcohol, it makes you relax, it makes you feel good, it makes you open up. And in gambling, of course, when someone is gambling, they win money, and it's a game of chance. And so there's some good in our perception as human beings, but the sin within those things are far greater. So in the days of ignorance, the days of Jahiliyyah, the alcohol and gambling and womanizing and Women being viewed as sex slaves was very, very prominent. Alcoholism was very, very prominent. Okay, and so Ibn Kathir, matter of fact, remarks on this verse, and he states that this verse prepared the way for prohibiting alcohol gradually, as it did not do so explicitly, but rather by implication. So Allah has sent the first warning. When they ask you about wine and gambling, O Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, you tell them that in them are some benefit to man, but the sin is much greater. Matter of fact, it deteriorates our body, social implications, family implications, things that it does to that are negative within society. Allah has revealed those things in this verse. Then the next verse comes along and it says, "O you who believe," in Surah An-Nisa, verse 43, it says, "O you who believe, do not approach the prayer while you're intoxicated until you know what you're saying." Okay, so for some people, and this is the point that I was trying to make the other day on the show, for some people, this settled the score in regards to alcohol. Let me tell you why. Because as Muslims, you know that we come to prayer at least 5 times daily. And so a person can't consume alcohol in between the prayer. So we'll start at the morning prayer. Of course, if someone stayed up all night drinking, then they're not going to be able to come to the morning prayer. Let's say they didn't stay up all night drinking. They went to sleep early, and then they woke up, they went to the prayer, and then they decided they want to have a drink. Well, they can't go to the next prayer because they're intoxicated. They have some form of the alcohol that's still in their system, so they can't go to the next prayer. Okay, and so, and then finally, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Ma'idah, he says, "O you believe, wine and gambling and sacrificing on stone altars and divining arrows are but defilement from the work of Satan. So avoid them that you may be successful." So that's the final stipulation that Allah says it's out. No, there's no more. But I want to go back to what you would call the second step, okay, in regards to coming to the prayer. For some people, it may take a long period of time before they're able to rid themselves of consuming alcohol. They're long-term alcoholics. They're very prominent alcoholics, months, years spending in alcoholism. And so they have a difficult time trying to rid themselves of that. But the prayer is what helps the Muslims to do away with whatever sin that a person would be involved in. The prayer itself is an expiation, and it's a way to eliminate the sin in our lives, right? And so for some people, they're going to struggle. They're going to need a period of time to allow themselves the ability to get off of the alcohol. Some people, on the other hand, they do it immediately. Alhamdulillah, they have the strength and the willpower to say, you know what, I accept my God, my Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and for the sake of my God, my Creator, my position on the day of judgment and in eternity, I'm going to stop this thing and I'm going to try to live in the obedience of my God, my Creator. And so for some people, the second, what you would call the second stage, or the second verse revealed in this process, that settled the score. That was enough. Alcohol was no more for those types of people. And then there's other people that, once again, they had to keep struggling, and we, that's human nature. That's how people are. So this prohibition of alcohol came gradually over time, and it's important to understand that the progression and the benefit of the progression versus, as I mentioned on the show, if you try to tell someone that as soon as they take Shahada, they have to stop drinking immediately, most people are going to say, just forget it. They're going to give up. They don't have the willpower. They don't have the strength. But if you allow that person the opportunity to work on themselves and keep going to prayer, keep seeking forgiveness, keep seeking guidance, stay among people who try to live in the obedience of our God, our Creator, then that person is going to be more prone to have success versus someone that says, you know what, if you take Shahada, you got to stop right now. It's not going to work. And so we see this abrogation, if you consider the abrogation from going from the Old Testament to the New Testament to what we call the final revelation of our God, our Creator, the Qur'an, which is al-Furqan, the criterion between what's right and wrong. We see a progression and we see abrogation each step of the way. So we see this 3-step process, right? And so we see the Jews had a certain way that they were living, and they were messing it up. They wandering around in the desert for 40 years because they can't live in the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They keep returning back to the enslavement. The very things that were enslaving them, they wanted to go back to it. Not just the literal enslavement by the Egyptians, but the things that were entrapping them in their sin, right? And so then the Prophet Jesus, peace and blessing be upon him, comes and he brings another revelation, right? And so we have the New Testament, we have the Old Testament, and then we have the Prophet Muhammad. So we have the Jews of the Old Testament, the Jews that received the original revelation, rejecting the second revelation of Jesus, saying, no, he's not the Messiah, he's not the one that we were waiting on. And then we have the Christians today rejecting the final prophet. And not just Christians, but other non-believers, people who don't accept all of the prophets as we do in Islam. We make no distinction between them. Alhamdulillah, the Prophet Muhammad, Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, Jesus, the Prophet Abraham, Moses, Noah, we look at them all equally. And the reason I bring this up is because once again, we see a rejection of the final revelation. And we see that this is the nature of man. So just like the alcohol, we keep going back to doing the same thing as a whole. The humanity keeps going back to the same thing that's been ensnaring us before, which is rejecting the prophets. Every prophet that our God, our Creator, has ever sent to the world, every single one of them has been rejected. Every single one of them. And we see the Prophet Muhammad as the final servant of our God, our Creator, being mocked and being ridiculed, just as Jesus was, peace and blessing be upon him, just as Moses was, peace and blessing be upon him, and all the rest of the prophets. So this abrogation, you made mention, and I know you believe that that the modern day Muslims aren't allowed this process, but you're wrong. You're simply wrong, and as a matter of fact, in Surah Bukhari, it says, if the first verse to be revealed was to not drink wine, excuse me. If the first verse to be revealed was to not drink wine, they would have said, we will never stop drinking, just as I mentioned a moment ago. And if it had been revealed to not commit adultery, they would have said, we will never stop committing adultery. So just as I mentioned to you a moment ago, if this commandment was sent down and to say to all of mankind, you have to stop right now, they're not going to do it. Our God, our Creator, knows that better than anyone. And so the Qur'an, alhamdulillah, it is universal. It's a guidance to all of mankind. Praise be to Allah. And so we've been blessed in since the days of the Prophet Muhammad to receive this knowledge, to receive this guidance. And we have people that are rejecting it, and we have people that are accepting it. So so there's nothing, Chris, that you're going to be able to provide me with that's ever going to be able to say that the previous verses were null and void at this point. They still exist. They're still in the Quran, because man still has these same, we're still humans. We do the same things now that they were doing then. People committing adultery, people robbing, stealing, committing murder, people consuming alcohol, intoxicants. All of these things, we're still human. We still do the same things. So why would our God, our Creator, change? His delivery is different because he sent different prophets at different periods of time to address those issues. But inevitably, the issues that man faces are universal from the beginning of when Allah created Adam, alayhi salatu wasalam, to the last of the prophets, the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, to 2019. And so nothing has changed. And I know that in your presentation on the show, I know what you were trying to get at. You were trying to say that the Prophet Muhammad, almost trying to make the claim that the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, and the Sahaba, the Muslims of that time, they had it easy, that they were making excuses for what they were doing. That's not the case. That's not the case at all. We still see this logical progression. If someone came and took Shahada then, there were still Muslims then that were still struggling, and there's still Muslims today. If someone takes the Shahada today, they're still going to struggle. And once again, some will stop and some will not. Some will continue to struggle with this issue. So it's a progressive revelation, and it's a beautiful revelation. So who says that that it stops for modern day Muslims? No Muslims say that. And who says that the verses are null and void? Nothing in the Islamic literature says that. It's only the non-Muslims that are saying that. The Muslims, we know that what these verses mean. We studied the tafsir. I've studied this particular topic intently at Michigan University. Matter of fact, it was about 4 years ago at this point, 3 years ago, alhamdulillah. But it's common knowledge amongst Muslims. The verses, every single verse of the Quran has an extreme importance. And when Allah says that if we send a verse and what does it say? Alhamdulillah. If we send one verse, that it's going to be better than or equal to the one before it. But if you notice, it doesn't mean, it says it's going to be better than or equal to, right? But the fact is that none of these verses are done away with. None of them are, otherwise, why would it be in the Quran? Why would Muslims pay so much attention to it? We wouldn't. So I'm gonna stop there with that, and we can open up a little back and forth dialogue if you like. But you know, in Islam, we're about building walls, not destroying walls. And so I want to try to clarify this to where let's just proceed. And anything that I've said or anything that I say, it's alhamdulillah, if I make any mistakes, may Allah forgive me. I don't represent all of Islam. I don't represent all Muslims. This is my explanation as someone who's actually studied this issue, and you'll see that it's consistent with other Muslims, alhamdulillah. So go ahead, Chris.
Alrighty. So my first question to you is, you've actually stated that a Muslim that is an alcoholic that says his shahada, he's allowed the two-step process as the Muslims at the time of Muhammad then, right?
Yes. Yes.
Can you show me evidence outside of your Quran that would agree with your answer?
Yes, I can. As a matter of fact, in Sahih al-Bukhari, 4707, Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, she states, if the first verse to be revealed was to not drink alcohol, they would have said that they will never stop. And if it had been revealed to not commit adultery, they would have said they will never stop. So it's explained. Bear with me one second. So if you understand what's being said here, let's put it like this, Chris. Let's put it like this. So there's nothing that states that these verses are null. There's nothing that states that the modern Muslims don't have the same opportunities as the early Muslims. And if you consider the progression of time and how Islam has continued to grow and has continued to spread, somewhere along the way, if these verses weren't supposed to be on equal ground for the early Muslims and any Muslims afterward, it wouldn't make sense. And so, absolutely, if someone takes a shahada today, they're allowed the same opportunity to wean themselves off of the alcohol that the early Muslims were allowed. And it's just I'm surprised that it's not just. How can I say? I don't want to be. I'm surprised that there's an issue here, and because for one, Islam is doing away with the alcohol, and it seems that people are still trying to find something to complain about, no matter what the issue is. So, as a matter of fact, on the website, matter of fact, I'll send you the link here in the chat. I'll send you the link in the chat. But you can read about this further in an introduction to the sciences of the Quran. That's a book, Introduction to the Sciences of Quran, and also the Abrogation of the Quran in Islamic law. And so you'll find there that everything that I've told you is consistent. There is no doing away with the previous verses. The previous verses still apply. It applied for the early Muslims, and it applies for the modern day Muslims as well.
Yeah, excellent. So yeah, the website really, to me, isn't evidence, right? Now, if we were debating a Christian topic, you're not going to allow me to be like, oh, here's James White's website. He answers that question in detail. You can just go ahead and read it. And you wouldn't accept that as sufficient enough. Just give me a second though, Kenny. You wouldn't accept that as a sufficient enough answer, and neither will I, right? So, but your first reference, when I asked you if you actually had evidence outside of the Quran, you actually went to a hadith narrated by, what it was, Aisha, you said?
Yes.
You realize that that wasn't a great one for you to quote though, right?
Yeah, I actually read the wrong one. I read the wrong one. So
I kind of knew which one you were reading, and I was going to mention that, but you caught yourself. So is there actually any reference outside of the Quran, and not just simply somebody's website? Because as you said, Kenny, you studied this, 3 to 4 years in university. You were like right into it. You knew so much. There's got to be a reference outside of the Quran.
Well, a reference for what? A reference stating that the previous verses aren't null and void. With the very fact that the verses are in the Quran proves that they're not null and void. They still apply. Go ahead.
What I need is a reference showing that new Muslims, it is not haram to drink alcohol. That it is only haram for them to come to prayers while drinking. That doesn't negate a Muslim gentleman, after his last prayer at night, having one drink and then going to bed. There would be no alcohol in his system. The next morning is actually good for you if you drink one glass of wine, health-wise, but it's all haram in Islam. So I need a reference stating that it is not haram for a new Muslim to partake in alcohol periodically.
No, as the Muslims would have. Okay, so I understand what you're asking me. No, we're not going to find anything like that. There is nothing that's going to state that it's not a sin for a new Muslim to consume alcohol. A sin is a sin, no matter if you're a long-term Muslim or a new Muslim. Okay, so Allah says, our God, our Creator says that alcohol is the consumption of alcohol is a sin, because it alters our mind. It changes us from the original state that He created us to be in. And so we're altering ourselves. It's a sin. Alcohol is a sin. So no, sir, we're not going to find any source that says that it's okay for the Muslim, the new Muslim, to consume alcohol. He just can't come to prayer. No, the new Muslim is going to be told, in Islam, we're not allowed to drink alcohol. You're not allowed to commit adultery. You do not consume alcohol. And if he does, that's between him and Allah. But it's our job as other Muslims to try to help him along the way, tell him give him advice on the matter. But the fact of the matter is, it's not allowed, period. It's not allowed. And if he goes to it, then he still has the opportunity, just like the Muslims before, to continue to seek knowledge and to continue to seek forgiveness, rather. So no, there's not going to be any source to say that that is allowed, because it's not allowed. But nor are you going to be able to provide any source that states that the verses are null and void and they're no longer prevalent. They're very prevalent. They still apply, because we still, as human beings, have to go through this step-by-step process to try to get ourselves to live in the obedience of our God, our Creator. For some people, it takes 2 steps, 3 steps. Some people take 200 steps. So this is a sign of the mercy of Allah, that whenever we commit sin, we still have the opportunity to go and seek forgiveness and try to change that thing. As long as we're going to ask for forgiveness sincerely, Allah gives us the opportunity, early Muslims, modern day Muslims, and whoever that seeks forgiveness sincerely, to work on ourselves and try to be the best people that we can be, and live in the the obedience of our God, our Creator. So, no, we're not going to find anything that you asked for, and nor are you going to be able to provide anything that you've stated. So hopefully.
So Kenny, when Muhammad gave the command that you were not allowed to drink.
Let me stop you right there just for a second, because I want to. For one, it's not the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, that's giving them the command about the alcohol. It's our God, our Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
I know, but he's the one verbally speaking.
Okay. Right. So I just want to clarify that because there's not.
No, I understand that you believe that the Quran is divinely inspired. I totally understand that, and all Muslims do.
No, it's not divinely inspired. We believe that the Quran is the literal speech of our God, our Creator. It has nothing to do with inspiration. He revealed the truth to our God, or to the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, who repeated what he was told. So I just want to clarify for the non-Muslims that may see this or hear this.
What's the difference between divine revelation?
The Prophet Muhammad did not write the Quran. Go ahead.
What's the difference between divine revelation and God's word, or Allah's word?
Well, there's not much difference in that, but the point I'm trying to make is that a lot of people try to attack the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and try to make the claim that he wrote the Quran. He did not write the Quran. It was revealed to him, unlike the Bible which was.
No, yeah, I totally understand how the Quran. Yeah, Muhammad spoke it. Companions of his penned it down. Things like that. That's how you have a written Quran today. It got Uthman redacted it at his time, and then we could keep going until what was it, 1902, the Cairo edition, I believe, that you guys actually read now, right? But that's all a different topic, right? So I first asked you a question. The question was, does an alcoholic that says the Shahada, is he allowed the two-step process the same as the Muslims at the time of Muhammad? And you said, yes, he does.
Yes.
And then I said, so a new Muslim could have a drink before he goes to bed and it still be okay. And you said, no. But
well, yeah, it's not okay. It's still a sin.
But they could give me a second, Kenny. Give me a second. Sure. But they could at the time of Muhammad. But he can't now. So it's not the same, Kenny.
No. You're misunderstanding what I'm saying, Chris. Okay, so whether or not a person lived in the early days of Islam or they live now, the commandments are still the same. The directions are still the same. Don't come to the prayer in a state of intoxication, right? So we come to prayer 5 times a day. You can't consume any alcohol at all if you're going to come to any of the prayers. You can't drink the night before, and you'll still have alcohol in your system. The Muslims
have one drink.
You're not. No, in Islam, you don't have one drink. If the man,
they could have. At the time, Muhammad said, "Don't come to prayer with alcohol on your breath." They could have one drink at night after their last prayer and still be perfectly fine in the morning, unless you scientifically can prove that wrong.
Says who? No one said that. Nothing in the Islamic sources say that. The commandment is
what stops them from doing it?
You do not come in a state of intoxication. Now listen. I think what's happening here is that okay. In Islam, we're not supposed to consume alcohol. Unfortunately, some people still do, right? And so that happened in the early days of Islam. It happens now. Okay, so as a deterrent for consuming the alcohol, Allah revealed the verses that you cannot come to the prayer in a state of intoxication. Well, if you're truly trying and you're striving to live in the obedience of God, then you don't consume the alcohol because you need to come to the prayer, and you can't come if you have alcohol in your system. It doesn't matter if you can't take one drink the night before. If the Muslims in the days of the Prophet Muhammad took a drink the night before, then they're not supposed to come to the prayer the next morning. And
it doesn't state that.
Huh? Yeah.
It doesn't state that.
Well, that's the deterrent. Now you have to understand.
But if they're not allowed to drink at all, as you're stating right now, you're trying to say that once Muhammad said that they're not allowed to drink and then come to prayer, that was actually the command, that there was no more alcohol to be consumed then, right?
Okay, so take an alcoholic today. You take an alcoholic today, and he's been he's been drinking for years. He's a true alcoholic. Okay, for one, the withdrawal symptoms from trying to get off alcohol, it's a very difficult thing to endure, right? And so a person now is trying to change their life and try to live in the obedience of our God, our Creator. It's as a mercy from our God, our Creator. They're not, but by no means are they told. They will never be told, hey, you know what, you can drink sometimes. No, they're not going to be told that. They're going to be told, in Islam, we don't consume alcohol. And if they do, if they slip up, okay, then there's conditions. Telling people not that you can't come to the prayer in a state of intoxication is a deterrent. All of these things are a deterrent. So it doesn't matter what period of time it is. The conditions of man are still the same. We still do the same things, and all of these things still apply. There's nothing that's going to state otherwise. And there's no need.
So even though it's a deterrent, as you said, it still is not a full prohibition of alcohol, though, is it?
For some people it is, because for some people.
No. Whoa, Penny. Whoa. What you're trying to put across here is that when your Prophet Muhammad spoke the words that you couldn't come to prayer while being drunk, basically, that you're trying to say at that point in time, the prohibition of alcohol was absolute then, that there was no more drinking at all at that time.
No.
Excellent. So just a second. So people actually could drink then, Kenny, right?
No, they couldn't. So
you just said no to both answers.
If I tell you, Chris, think about this. If I tell you, Chris, you can't, don't be speed. The speed limit is 55. Don't be speeding. The speed limit is always going to be 55. And if you speed, you're going to get a ticket, right? And so you speed and you get a ticket, you get another ticket, you get another ticket. Well, the commandment is, and the law is, that the speed limit is always 55. So in regards to the topic, the commandment is that we're not to consume alcohol. Unfortunately, some people still do. And so there's maybe you've sped so much, now we got to give you probation, lock you up. I don't know. I'm just using this as an example. But what I'm trying to convey to you is that there's no difference. And I know what you're trying to do on the show. You were trying to say that the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was making it easy for him and his companions.
No, actually, do you want me to give you my actual argument?
Sure.
Because that's not it.
Well, that's what I told you.
My actual argument is law is unjust.
Go ahead.
My actual argument is this proves that Allah is unjust.
Unjust? So why do you think it's unjust when Allah is allowing a man the opportunity to change himself?
No, just give me a second, Ken. I'll explain why Allah is unjust. Just give me maybe 3 minutes.
Sure.
So Allah in the Qur'an says that drinking is okay, there's good and bad in it. But he doesn't prohibit it at that point. And people at that point could still come to prayers while they've been drinking. And then Allah tells Muhammad, or reveals to Muhammad, that they're not allowed to come to prayers while they're drinking. But that's not a full prohibition of alcohol. And then finally, we get the final prohibition of alcohol, where Allah reveals to Muhammad that alcohol is haram, that it's not allowed to be touched, that Muslims are not allowed to have it. So what we see here, though, is that at the second stage, when they couldn't go to prayer while drinking or drunk, there was no full prohibition of alcohol on those Muslims. They had time to wean themselves off the alcohol without it being haram to Allah. The alcoholic today that says his shahada, it is haram the day he says his shahada. He doesn't have the same opportunity as the Muslims at Muhammad's time to slowly wean himself off and it not be haram at the time that he's weaning himself off, as it wasn't haram at the time when they only had to go to prayer, or when they couldn't go to prayer while drinking. This shows how Allah is unjust to the alcoholics of today. How would you get around that?
Okay, very easily. Okay, before the 10 Commandments were revealed, I'm using this as an example, and Allah says, thou shalt not commit adultery, right? Well, before that, there was a lot of adultery taking place. There was all kind of sexual immorality taking place, right? And so if you applied the same logic to any sin that someone would commit, and once the commandment is given and it's brought to the attention of mankind, then people have a choice in the matter, right? So in this process of allowing people the opportunity to change themselves, it still demonstrates the mercy of Allah then and now. Okay, so before the first verse was revealed, think about what's being said, Chris. Before the first verse was revealed, that alcohol was very common to them, right? They didn't know it was a sin. No one ever told them it was a sin. That's just what they did. And so it was real. If they ask you about wine and gambling, there's some good in them, but the sin is greater than the benefit, right? And so for some people, they're going to say, all right, well, I need to stop doing this. If the sin is greater than the benefit, then I need to stop. Okay,
yeah,
the alcoholic
at that time.
Hold on, let me finish.
Able
I
to
gave you
stop.
3 minutes, right? So at that point, for some people, they're going to hear that and they're going to say, okay, well, if the sin is greater than the blessing in it or whatever, then I need to stop. I need to stop doing that. Okay, so some people will stop and some people won't. So for the people who don't, then they're told, you cannot come to the prayer in a state of intoxication. We come to prayer 5 times a day. How are you going to drink in between any of these periods of time and come to the prayer? You can't. And so that means even more people are going to stop drinking. And then finally, once the Muslims have made progress, they're learning more, they're being exposed to Islam more, they're having the guidance of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, more, then finally the commandment is given that you cannot consume any alcohol whatsoever. But it would be unjust from our God, our Creator, to hold us to a different accountability in regards to the fact that we still commit sin within ourselves. People still struggle to try to get themselves together, get themselves right. And so our God doesn't change. If you believe he changes, and he changes his mind, then we have a problem. But our God, our Creator, if you believe that our God, our Creator is never changing, he's always the same. Okay, now man changes, and therefore if he has to adjust to his commandment in order to help man learn, to help man change, but his decrees are always the same. They don't change. The method of sending the revelation changes, just as we've discussed about the New Testament, the Old Testament, New Testament, and the Qur'an, alhamdulillah. And so, we got to look at this logically and say, all right, are humans humans? Yes. Do we still do the same things today that they did back then? Absolutely. And so does our God change? No. Would he change his method of treating us? No. Just like a doctor, 100 years ago, if things change medically, but I'm saying that in order to treat people in these ailments and these conditions and these sins, our God, our Creator, has sent these revelations, and they applied then and they apply now. Nothing's changed.
Yeah, I'll just let you keep going, but you didn't really answer my question, because you're basically just going over the same thing over and over again. I understand that there was different stages at the time of Muhammad, but again, it wasn't haram to drink a drink after your last prayer before you went to bed.
Where do you find that at, Chris?
Show me it is. It's not haram until the final command by Muhammad that says no more alcohol. Why would Muhammad have to say, why would Allah have to reveal to Muhammad to tell these people they're not allowed to drink anymore if they were already not allowed to drink anymore?
Okay, so the thing is, Chris, the stipulation doesn't change. Man changes, right? So I guess I'm perplexed by the fact that you're making an issue out of this when it's really a non-issue, because our God, our Creator, has revealed these verses and stated that that if they ask you about wine and gambling, in them is some benefit, but the sin is greater. So allowing man the opportunity to use logic and has a freedom of choice here in the matter about what he's going to do. He's going to either go the straight path or he's going to go and he's going to consume more alcohol. Then if you want to keep consuming alcohol, well, let's make the decree a little bit harder then, and you can't come in a state of intoxication. For some people, they're going to give up the alcohol. Some people are going to keep drinking. And so finally it's decreed, enough is enough. You haven't learned yet. We're going to put the stipulation. You're still continuing to choose to consume the alcohol. I'm going to hold you accountable. Okay. And so, it's unfathomable to think that you would believe, I can't believe that you would believe that there was some kind of injustice or imbalance of the scales for the early Muslims compared to the modern Muslims. We follow the example of the early Muslims. We follow the guidance in the Hadith. We follow the same Qur'an, and we live in the same world. So there's no difference in how this thing is dealt with. They were allowed opportunity to wean themselves off the alcohol then, and the Muslims today are allowed the opportunity to wean themselves of the alcohol today, with the understanding that if you consume the alcohol and you keep doing it, you're sinning while you're doing it, right? You're still sinning. So long as you know that you're still sinning, then you have to live with the choices that you make. No one's going to force the alcohol down your throat. And so if you continue to consume alcohol, well, you have to know that you're committing sin. It's not allowed in Islam. But because you're new, because you are you're still struggling, trying to live in the obedience of our God, our Creator, then just know that whatever you do is you're being held accountable for it, right? And so it's in that regard, you would think that it's actually harder, let's put it like this. The early Muslims, they didn't know that they were committing sin. They didn't even think about it. They didn't even care about it, right? They were just drinking and gambling and sex all over the place, right? They could care less about it. And
now,
so,
whoa. Are you saying the early Muslims or before Muhammad's time?
Both. I'm saying before the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, began receiving revelation of the Quran, all these things, all these sins were very, very prominent. And they still existed in the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. But as Islam began to grow and more people began to be exposed to Islam, then those things began subside, going away. As a matter of fact, within 100 years, alcoholism within the Muslim community had almost nearly diminished. That didn't mean that some people didn't still consume alcohol, because even Muslims today, Christians today, people who try to live in the obedience for God today, still commit sin. Some people still slip up. Some people still have to fight that urge to go drink. So the conditions were the same then as they are now. We're still the same people, Chris. So it's really a non-issue. This is really nothing that should ever be attacked, other than, or not even be mentioned, except for saying, in Islam they don't drink, and they have rules for it, and a person I can't stay up and drink all night. If I have prayer in the morning, I still have alcohol in my system. So either I'm going to choose to drink, or I'm going to choose to say, no, I can't go in a state of intoxication in any degree. I can't have a drop of alcohol. And so if I want to go to the prayer in the morning, if I fear my God, my Creator, if I truly want to live in obedience, then I can't consume the alcohol. And that's applied then, it applies now.
Excellent. So what you're trying to say is there was a full prohibition of alcohol when Muhammad said you can't come to prayer while drunk.
Yes.
That was a full prohibition.
Yeah. Listen. I've already explained this, and I'll explain it again.
No, see, but I've already explained it as well, though, Kenny.
No, hold on. But listen,
why would he have to
you're
give a
not
full
hearing what I'm saying.
prohibition when he does it later on? Because we already know the people that were in his army at the time were actually drinking before the Battle of Uhud. And this was after the command was given about the prayers. So therefore, Muhammad was still allowing people to drink. It wasn't a full prohibition.
What tells you, hold on, where do you find that he was allowing people to drink? That would be like if I gave someone shahada today, they took shahada and they were around me and I seen them drinking, and I'm not equating myself to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. May Allah forgive me. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying any Muslims, if they're around any new Muslims that and they seen them drinking, they're going to tell them, hey, you're not allowed to drink in Islam, brother.
Yeah, now.
Right. No, then. You think the Prophet Muhammad was just allowing the Muslims to drink? No,
yeah,
they weren't drinking around the Prophet.
We have hadith that show that there was drinking going on at the time of the Battle of Uhud. This was after they were given
there was. And I totally agree with that. Yes, there was drinking going on. But that doesn't mean it was being allowed. Why would you say?
You're saying the Muslims had a full prohibition already before that.
No, I'm not saying that. I didn't.
Yes, you did. Whoa, Kenny. You said, and I quote you because I asked you a specific question. I said when Muhammad revealed that you were not allowed to come to prayer while drinking or drunk, is that a full prohibition of alcohol? Yes. And you said yes.
I sure did say yes.
Now you're admitting
hold on. I said yes.
Still drinking at the Battle of Uhud. So therefore, it couldn't have been a full prohibition.
Okay, so I said yes for some people. So you didn't get. So think about what I'm saying here. So for some people,
Allah puts a full prohibition on some people and not all people.
No, the prohibition is on. Think about what I'm going to tell you here, Chris. The prohibition is on all people, right? For some people, all it took is the first revelation. In consumption of alcohol and gambling, there's some good in them, but the sin is worse. Well, if the sin is worse, some people are going to say, well, I'm going to stay away from it, right? And so for some people, it was a done deal at that point. For some people, it required the second stage, which is don't come to the prayer in a state of intoxication. Okay, well, if I'm going to come to the prayer, to me, it's prohibited. I'm going to stop. I can't do it anymore because I can't come to the prayer in a state of intoxication. So nothing's being nullified, nothing's being changed. All of these things are saying the same thing. Don't drink, don't drink, don't drink. And so nothing's changed.
No, it's not really saying don't drink. The first one's saying there's good and there's bad, right?
Right.
The bad outweighs the good. Therefore, it's not saying but don't do it. It's just saying there's good and bad there, and the bad's worse than the good. But it's not saying not to do it. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree with that.
Let's go to the next one, Kenny. So now you're agreeing that there's no full prohibition there. Now, when we go to the next one, and you're not allowed to drink before your prayer, of course, right? You can't come to the prayer while drunk, right? Is that a full prohibition for all times, for all Muslims? The answer is no, Kenny.
No, it's not no. It's not no.
It is because it's not a full prohibition at that time for all Muslims because you already admitted that it wasn't.
No, that's illogical because you can't apply that to all Muslims. For some people, they'll hear that and they will stop.
Why can't you?
That's their prohibition.
Why can't you apply it to all Muslims if it's a full prohibition of alcohol?
Because not all Muslims are going to live by it, right?
Excellent. So today,
hold on
the
one second.
alcoholic today, is he allowed the same process as the Muslims at that time? where
Yes.
it's not a full prohibition for him.
Yes. Now think
So
about
no,
what
no,
you're saying.
whoa, Kenny, you just said, I specifically stated, if a new Muslim today, an alcoholic Muslim, said his shahada, he became a Muslim. I just asked you if alcohol is fully prohibited from him, and you just said no. Is that the truth, or
I did not. I did not say that.
Yeah.
Let's start right here. If a new Muslim today takes his shahada, he's going to be told you cannot consume alcohol. You're not allowed to consume alcohol.
It's a full prohibition.
So, but the choice in the matter is his. No one's going to. What are they going to do? Walk beside him and cut his throat if he consumes alcohol or.
I totally agree. I totally agree with you. It is all up to the individual.
Absolutely, then and now.
Drink or not.
Right.
But it is a full prohibition on that new Muslim alcoholic today. It's a full prohibition, right?
Look.
Which means it is not allowed at all.
Look, but the thing is, Chris, it's not allowed, but because he's still going, most likely, for some people, they're still going to drink, right? They're still going to commit sin. And so the conditions still apply today that applied then. They're still allowed this opportunity to change themselves. So all of this is beautiful, actually. All of this is wonderful. All of this is a way for man to better himself, okay? And so if you start putting harsh stipulations on someone, you know what they're going to do, Chris? They're going to say, just forget it. They don't want to put down the alcohol immediately. Allah's got to work on them. The Muslims have to be examples to them.
But the command from Allah to that person, though, is that alcohol is no more. It's totally haram. It's a full prohibition on alcohol, though, right?
Well, sure. It's right.
Okay. So, but at the time of Muhammad, when he revealed the verse that you couldn't drink and come to prayer, it was not a full prohibition of alcohol now, was it?
Chris, I'm going to tell you again. For some people, yes. You understand what I'm telling you?
But,
for some people, yes. I've already explained this to you. For some people, that's all it took. Some people, some people are more hard-headed than others. And so, therefore,
but it wasn't a final prohibition for the hard heads, right?
Shaped and molded a little bit more. Some people, it's only going to take one bit of understanding. Let's go back to the very first step and say, in them is great sin. So there's some benefit, but the sin far outweighs the benefit. So logic dictates that for some people, they're going to hear that in their intellect, in their thinking, in their heart. They're going to say, you know what? Then if that's the case, if our God, our Creator, just revealed this, that the sin is far. Matter of fact, the verse says the sin is far greater than the benefit. So for some people, that's enough. That's the prohibition for them as an individual. Some people it requires the second step. Finally, if but it doesn't change and negate the next step. So in each one of these things, alcohol isn't prohibited. I mean, it isn't allowed. It doesn't change. But man, because he's only accountable for what he's been exposed to thus far in his life. So I'm going to go back, and we got to use logic here. And this is the beauty of our God, our Creator, sending the example of these previous peoples for us to learn by. So if the conditions are harder for us today, alhamdulillah, that makes it better for us. So it doesn't matter, what you're trying to do, Chris, and I know what you was trying to do on the show, is trying to make it appear as though the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was making changes to accommodate the Muslims to make things easy for them. But we live in under harsher circumstances now. If we live under harsher circumstances now, that's a good thing for us, that it's more serious, right? That's what it's saying.
That wasn't my argument, though, because as I stated already, my whole argument in showing this is to show that Allah is unjust.
How is he unjust when he's given man the opportunity to change himself?
Okay, so this is why I believe Allah is unjust. Okay.
How can you say that our God, our creator, when you say Allah, let's just say our creator from now on, Chris. Our God, our creator.
Well, we don't have the same God.
Okay, I believe in my creator. The same God that made me made you. Do you believe in our God, our creator?
I don't believe in the same creator you believe in.
I'm praying to the God of Adam. I bow and submit myself to the God that created Adam. Do you?
I do not agree with your creator.
That's not what I ask you. A simple question.
I agree with the creator Yahweh.
Listen, I bow and pray to the God that created Adam. Who do you bow and pray to?
I bow down and pray to the God that created Adam, Yahweh, the triune God. Is that the same one you bow down to?
I bow and pray to our God, our creator. Okay, so we're talking about our creator.
Yahweh, the triune God. Is that who you bow to?
Yahweh, Allah, God, Adonai, Elohim. These are just man-made words, Chris. I'm talking about our creator. Are you willing to admit right here that you believe that Allah is Yahweh? I believe those words are man-made. those words are man-made. The word Allah.
Yeah, I didn't think you would. That's why
Yahweh is a man-made word.
Let's get back to the conversation.
Well, yeah. Well, okay. Hold on. Well, we're in the conversation in regards to you're saying that our God, my God, and your God. When Jesus said, "My God, your God, our Lord, your Lord," we're talking about our God, our Creator, the one.
No, see, again, you're going to get into a different conversation, and I'm not going to get.
I'm going back to you saying that
we're talking about alcohol.
I'm going back to you saying that Allah is unjust. You're saying that's the crux of your argument, and so that's.
And I'm going to show why from the abrogation in the Qur'an.
Okay, so what I'm trying to establish is common ground between us here. I'm talking about our God, our Creator, that knows us better than we know ourselves. So if you're not talking about the same God, then
if you're talking about the triune God, Yahweh, the creator of everything, then we're talking about the same God. If you do not believe in that God, you believe in a different God.
I believe in the God that created
God isn't God.
Do you believe in the God that created Adam? I'm trying to come to common terms with you.
Yes, I believe in the triune God Yahweh that created Adam. Okay, yes, I do.
Despite the name, I'm talking about our Creator. Do you believe in the God that created Adam?
The triune God that created Adam, yes.
Okay, I'm talking about our God, our Creator, that created all of mankind and everything that we see. That's what I'm talking about. Let's come to common terms between me and you. Okay.
Well, we never will, though, Kenny. In this instance, because
you don't want to, but I do.
Because I believe in a triune God, and you don't.
No, because I'm a Muslim, and I'm told to come to common terms between me and you. So let's come to common terms. When we're talking about our Creator, we're talking about this God of Adam.
Term we ain't going to agree with.
That's okay. That's on you, Chris. I'm trying as a Muslim.
Yeah, I'm not going to relinquish my beliefs in the triune God, the creator of everything, just to appease a conversation.
Okay, well, do you believe that your God, your creator, my God, my creator that created me and you, do you believe that he's unjust? Because a while ago you said that he's unjust.
I do not believe that the triune God Yahweh that created Adam and everything else has anything to do with your Quran. I'm saying your Allah that revealed the Quran to Muhammad is unjust.
Really?
And I've been showing it.
Really? So basically, what it boils down to, Chris, let's just be real with it, okay? Let's be real with it. Okay, in Islam, we're taught to accept all prophets, right? We make no distinction between any of them. And we don't reject Moses, we don't reject peace and blessing be upon him, Jesus, peace and blessing be upon him, and we don't reject the final prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him. But throughout the course of history, the history of mankind, each and every time that a prophet came to a community, they were rejected. They were called magicians, they were called fools, they were called sorcerers. Hold on. And
now you're gonna get off topic.
These prophets were rejected. And once again, it boils down to that you're rejecting the final prophet. And that's where the problem lies. You don't want to hear the truth because you don't want it to be the truth. The fact of the matter is that our God, our Creator, has given us an opportunity to correct ourselves. and given us a mercy, and you say that he's unjust, but the mere fact that he's given us an opportunity to seek forgiveness and work on ourselves and change our conditions and remove sin from our lives demonstrates that he's not unjust. If he, he's a loving and a merciful God. So how is it unjust? How is it unjust, and why would it even concern you when we're talking about the early Muslims and the modern day Muslims? The modern day Muslims, we don't see it as the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and his companions had it a little easier than we do. We see it as they had it much harder than we do. It was much harder on them and the way they lived their lives, right? And so we learn from their examples, and here we are today in 2019 with Islamophobia running rampant. So
yeah, and we have a lot of Christian phobia running rampant as well.
It boils down to
okay, no, I let you speak, Kenny.
Sure,
just give me some time here. So again, we have Christian phobia running rampant in the U.S., the U.K., and all over the world. So this Islamophobia to me is just a joke. Anybody that disagrees with Islam apparently is an Islamophobe. So anyways, let's get past that. So what I said is your Allah is unjust by the way that we see the abrogation in the Qur'an and the way that a new alcoholic Muslim coming into Islam would be. Now, if we look at it, when Muhammad gave the commandment from Allah that they were not allowed to drink or be drunk when they come to prayer, that was not a full prohibition for all people for all times. As you said yourself, it was a command for some of them, because some of them, that's all it took. It's like, okay, I can't go to prayer drinking, I'm going to quit.
Absolutely.
But that's not all of them.
What do you mean?
Right? Well, not all Muslims at that time. You said that there was hardheads, right?
Yeah, and it still exists today.
So it wasn't a full prohibition of alcohol for everyone for all time.
For some people it was.
Only some, but not for all time.
What's the problem? If it was for some,
so
you're trying
let's keep going. Let's keep
the ones that wasn't prohibition for.
Kenny, you got to give me time again. Okay, so it was not a full prohibition for all people for all time at that point. Then Muhammad said that there's no more drinking at all. At that point,
no, then Allah said there's no more drinking at all.
Okay, so Allah revealed to Muhammad that there was no more drinking at all. So that was the final prohibition that nobody else that is a Muslim for all time could have alcohol, because at that point it was haram for everyone, right?
Okay.
You agree?
I agree. Sure.
Excellent. So
actually, I wasn't really listening to you on that.
A Muslim today, why couldn't it be as that, let's say the time of Muhammad when the revelation was given to him about the no more drinking or coming to prayer drunk? Why can a new Muslim start there? Because as you said, it was only a prohibition for some, not all.
Say that again.
So the alcoholic could still drink as long as he wasn't going to prayer drunk, right?
Say that again. What was your question?
So when Muhammad gave the verse about drinking or coming drunk to prayer, that was not a full prohibition for all people at all time. It was only some. Some Muslims could still drink and still go to prayer as long as they weren't drunk or they weren't drinking before prayer.
No, they could.
You can shake your head no all you want, but you don't have
the logic dictates no, they can't. They can't come.
No, but it's not logic though, Kenny.
Yes, it is, because you can't come to the prayer. You can't come to the prayer if you've consumed alcohol. You can't do it, and so therefore that's a prohibition. You understand what I'm telling you? You understand what I'm telling you? That these verses,
Kenny. So what you're actually stating now is that when Muhammad gave that verse, it was a full prohibition for everyone for all times then.
You use just a little bit of logic, okay?
No, no, no. No, sir.
Hold on, please.
Because you're going off of what the Quran is saying.
Right, of course I'm going off of what the Quran is saying.
No,
absolutely.
Off meaning away. Off meaning away.
Listen, if you can't come to prayer in a state of intoxication, and we come to prayer 5 times each and every day, when can someone consume alcohol during the course of the day? They can't, nor can they consume it at night. That doesn't mean that people don't say, I'm still going to drink. Of course they do.
But it wasn't you've already admitted it wasn't a full prohibition.
If you think about it logically, Chris, it is a prohibition. It's a prohibition. Hold on. What did I tell you? For some people, right? It boils. Let's put it like this: it's a prohibition for all people, but not all people live by it. So that's a better way to explain it. Actually, it is a prohibition for all people. All Muslims are prohibited from coming to the prayer in a state of intoxication if they've consumed any alcohol.
No.
They're prohibited. Hold on. They're prohibited from coming to the prayer. So yes, it is a prohibition for all Muslims. Unfortunately, not all Muslims live by it. So that's, I mean, and therefore it's equal with the final revelation.
Okay. Just a second. I want you to prove that when Muhammad gave that revelation, that it was a full prohibition for all people and all times.
Let me do this, okay?
Because when we look in your
I'm going to read
hadith,
you the tafsir, okay?
in the Battle of Uhud, we know that Muhammad's men, the Muslim army that was there, was drinking. So if it was a full prohibition at the time he revealed it, they wouldn't have been drinking a part of his army.
Okay, listen very closely.
Wouldn't you pick them out?
Listen very closely to what this is. Okay, just please pay attention and listen. This is the tafsir of this very verse about coming to the prayer in a state of intoxication. Listen, it says the reference is either to a state of intoxication or to a dazed state of mind on account of drowsiness or some other cause, or perhaps both are implied. Before the prohibition of intoxicants altogether was promulgated, it was at least unbecoming that people should come to the prayers in such a state. So for prayers, it is only right that we should collect our whole minds and approach Allah in a spirit of reverence. Okay, so it says the strictest cleanliness and purity of mind and body are required, especially in the time of prayer. But there are circumstances, it's going to go into ablution. But so nevertheless, what it boils down to is the commandment was given, whether people adhered to it or not, whether they respected it or not, whether they understood it fully or not. The prohibition was given that you cannot come to prayer in a state of intoxication. So just like I told you before, for some people, that was all that was needed. That was enough. And for them, they took it to heart, and they didn't consume alcohol because they had prayers every day, right?
So
that's a
some,
prohibition.
not all, right?
Huh? It's still a prohibition. It's a prohibition given to all of the Muslims. It's a prohibition given to all of the Muslims that not all of the Muslims lived by then, and some don't live by it now. Just the same thing with Christianity. People are given commandments and they still do it. Don't commit adultery. Don't covet your neighbor's stuff. Don't do this. Don't do that. People still do it. Right? But the commandment is still given.
Okay, so you can keep trying to go off the topic and try to go to Christianity. And
no, I'm not. I'm trying to give you. I told you, we come to common terms.
What we're dealing with here, Kenny.
We're coming to common terms, and so I'm trying to give you the opportunity to come to common ground and understand what I'm trying to express to you. Before it was revealed, thou shalt not commit adultery, people were committing adultery. Even after the commandment was given, thou shalt not commit adultery.
Whoa. Just give me a second, though. Give me a second.
Sure.
Now, I'm going to throw your argument right out of the water right here. Because it was one command to not commit adultery. If it was happening before, it wasn't like, okay, well, you can't commit adultery just before prayer. And then later on, oh, okay, now you just can't commit adultery at all. That's not what we're talking about, so don't try to imply that it is.
It's the same process.
You're using the fallacy of equivocation.
No, I'm not.
You're a university student. You should have understood that by now. But let's get back to the verse in the Kenny. Whoa. Let's get back to the verse in the Quran. You've stated 2 separate occasions that it was a full prohibition for all Muslims at all time. Then you've stated it was only a full prohibition for some Muslims. So you've given both answers. Which one is correct?
Say that one more time, please, Chris.
Okay, so the verse that Allah revealed to Muhammad about not drinking or coming drunk to prayers, you've stated is a full prohibition for all Muslims for all time. And you've also stated that it was a full prohibition for some Muslims. So which answer is it?
Okay, it's both. And I've already explained this to you, and I'm amazed that I have to tell you again. If the commandment is given, you cannot come to prayer in a state of intoxication. That is a prohibition. You realize that?
So there was no more alcohol allowed at all.
Hold on. You're prohibited. You can't come to the prayer.
I said a full prohibition of alcohol, Kenny.
Listen, Chris, it boils down to intellect. If
it boils down to what your Quran says, Kenny.
Let me tell you what the Quran says. It says, "He it is who revealed to you, Muhammad, the scripture wherein are clear revelations. They are the substance of the book, and others which are allegorical. But those in whose hearts pursue doubt, seek those which are allegorical in order to cause dissension by seeking to explain it." That's what you're doing right here. And so think about this once again. If I tell you, Chris, you cannot come to prayer while intoxicated. If you've consumed any alcohol, you can't come to prayer. That means I've put a prohibition on you. I've limited I've set the rule.
Exactly. That's the correct word, limited.
No. I've set the limit, the boundary, the wall. I've set the wall up, the prohibition, it's done. You cannot come to prayer in a state of intoxication. So once again, for some people, they're going to abide by that. They're going to follow that, and they're going to stop drinking completely. So it's a prohibition. If you want to come to prayer, if you call yourself a Muslim, then you cannot consume alcohol and come to prayer. Boom, it's done. It's a prohibition. You cannot do it. So that verse, it says in the Quran, if we reveal another verse, that we give you one that is equal or better. Equal or better. These two verses that you're talking about, these verses are equal. Both of them are telling the Muslims that you cannot drink anymore. Period. If you're a Muslim and you come to prayer 5 times a day, which is our obligation, it's one of the pillars of Islam. It's the most important pillar of Islam, except for declaring the oneness of our God, our Creator. Right? So the prayer is the second most important pillar of Islam. If you're going to be a Muslim, you're going to come. You've got to observe the prayer, and you cannot. It's prohibited to come to the prayer in a state of intoxication. It's a prohibition. Boom. Done. So then and now.
If a Muslim continues to drink alcohol, let's just say you're building an army, a Muslim army, and this Muslim keeps drinking alcohol. Are you going to put him in your army?
What if he's drinking and I don't know that he's drinking, Chris? Am I walking around with this soldier following?
We have hadiths that state that he was. So yeah, other people actually knew it.
Well, if the other people knew it, then they most likely either they told him something about it. They told the Muslims that were drinking about it. Or they didn't. Maybe they overlooked it. Maybe they mind their own business. What it boils down to, the prohibition is still in place.
The reason why it was overlooked is because there was not a full prohibition of alcohol at that time.
If the Muslims are coming to prayer, they cannot do it. They're prohibited from coming to the prayer in a state of intoxication. The word there is prohibited. You cannot come if you've consumed alcohol.
A prayer, you're prohibited from praying while drunk. You're not prohibited from alcohol in full.
You cannot drink not one drop of alcohol. You can't have it in your system. It's prohibited. You cannot come in a state of intoxication if you've had one drop. For some people, they can drink a whole 12-pack and it doesn't bother them at all. Some people, they might drink one sip and it affects them, unfortunately. I mean, I say unfortunately, realistically.
So why would these Muslims look past? Because we have evidence that Muslims were drinking long past this full prohibition that you're trying to say.
Because
and Muhammad just put him in his army.
Chris. So if someone is given commandments from our God or Creator, which we all have been, obviously these rules are in place. We have laws in society that are in place. Why do people continue to break laws, Chris? You know,
that wasn't the question, Kenny.
No,
if somebody continued to break the law, would you put them in your army?
How do I know what they're doing in their private time?
We have the hadith that says it, so people knew what they were doing.
Do you have a hadith? No, you don't have a hadith that says that.
I give you the hadith from the Battle of Uhud.
You don't have a hadith that says the Prophet Muhammad, knowing that these people were drinking, stuck them in his army. You don't have anything like that, sir. You don't have anything like that. Not even close.
Okay, but we have people in Muhammad's army actually drinking and then dying with that alcohol in their belly.
Okay, so
we actually have that evidence in your hadith that I give you earlier, and you actually agreed to it.
Okay, so yeah, there is a hadith that says that the Muslims were drinking before the battle. Okay, that's not a problem. It's a problem.
Yeah, it is, because you said it's a full prohibition.
Hold on. But does that mean that they were allowed to drink? You're being far-fetched.
Why would Muhammad allow alcohol on the grounds where his army people are? Why would he allow it? Is he the leader?
Is Muhammad going to go around to every soldier and check his?
Yeah, he should.
Is he going to go around?
He should, and he should have somebody that could report back to him, as you would nowadays, to be able to see this, unless people are just allowing it. Which that's the actual. If you use logic, Kenny, that's what logic tells you, is that Muhammad allowed them to drink. That's why they were drinking.
Allowed them to drink?
Of course he would.
You're being absurd. No, the prohibition is already in place. Do you think before the battle that the Muslims didn't get up and go to prayer before the battle? They went to prayer before the battle.
I don't know. I don't know if they prayed, but I do know they drank the night before. It states that in the hadith.
You make it sound like all the Muslims.
Kenny,
you make it sound like all the Muslims
in the army.
You make it sound like all the Muslims.
And you don't know it. What type of leader are you?
What you make it sound like all of the Muslims were gathered around the campfire just having a party before the night that they go to battle.
They lost the battle because
of anything that states that. And
they lost the battle because of it. That's what the hadith says.
If some of the Muslims were drinking and the battle was lost, well, that doesn't mean that they were allowed to drink. The prohibition was already in place. Do you think
it doesn't mean they weren't allowed to drink either?
Do you think the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, wasn't still going to the prayer? Absolutely, they were still going to prayer. And do you think the prohibition still stated that you cannot come to the prayer in a state of intoxication? Of course, it still was in place.
Answer this then. If it was a full prohibition of alcohol for all Muslims for all time, why was there any alcohol there at all?
Because people commit sin, Chris. Because people are weak. Because people don't follow the rules. Why is adultery still? Why is adultery still?
Can you prove this?
Why is
or is this just your own thoughts?
Huh?
Is this just your own thoughts, or can you prove this?
This is simple logic, Chris.
So it's your own thoughts then, right?
What do you need me to use to prove that, man is given commandments from our God, our Creator, and because man is still weak, because we still have Satan attacking us constantly, man still commits sin. Even the best among us commit sin.
If in my house, I put a full prohibition of alcohol in my house, there is not going to be one person bringing any type of alcohol in my house.
Right now, as you speak, there's people who have prohibitions about alcohol in their homes, and their teenagers still have it in their homes. Period.
So you're being illogical. You're equating parents and teenagers to Muhammad and his army, then, right?
Hold on, you brought up
Good job, Kenny. Good job.
You brought up your home, and you're equating it to Muhammad and the army. I'm just trying to.
I am.
I'm trying to use your simple
logic.
Yes,
I am, because I could.
You could, right? So
are you now, though?
But you're being absurd. I'm just using your example to prove a point. I'm coming to common terms with you. You brought it up. You brought up this 3-step process. You brought up the family in your home.
I would just ask you. This is my final question for you, Kenny. Final question. What type of leader doesn't know that there is something wrong in his camp when there's a full prohibition on it? How does he not know nobody's drinking?
This is ridiculous. Okay,
because you're trying to say that Muhammad never knew that they were drinking, right?
What do you mean? Do you think that these people were drinking around the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him?
Because I don't think they really cared because because there wasn't a full prohibition of alcohol at that point. So yes, they could have.
There was a full prohibition.
What you say there is.
These Muslims are coming to prayer. Well, they come to prayer. If there's a full prohibition,
why does your God have to say it again and again and again?
Why did he have to tell the children of Israel again and again and again for 40 years and they wouldn't listen?
Your law didn't say anything to them.
Because people are people, Chris.
Again, you can't keep bringing up the previous scriptures because you don't believe in the story.
You want to attack Islam so wholeheartedly that you can't open your mind to understand simple concepts. And I don't mean to insult you, but it's really.
No, but I think that you're so into what you're saying, you don't even realize that you've contradicted yourself in our conversation.
No, sir. Your inability to comprehend what I'm telling you is the issue. I've explained it to you.
When you say yes and then you say no, that's not a contradiction?
I've explained it to you in numerous ways. When people hear this eventually, they're going to laugh at you, Chris. And I don't mean to be offensive, but it's just absurd and ridiculous that you're trying to make an issue out of a non-issue. If the Muslims are Muslims, they're coming to prayer 5 times a day, right? And they cannot pray, they cannot consume alcohol. It's prohibited before each, you can't, it's prohibited to consume alcohol before the prayer. Right. And so during the Battle of Uhud, they were still coming to prayer. They're still Muslims. They're still coming to prayer. Unfortunately, there's people that are weaker than others. The people that are more prone to stay in the sin. People are people, Chris. It's simple logic that if you just look around, people get told the right thing to do all the time. Do they do it? No, they don't. They take the wrong route. And that happens in all religions. It happens in all people. It happens with people with no religion. They get told, don't drink and drive. People still drink and drive, Chris. They know the detriment of it, and they still get out on the highway, and they still drink and drive because people are still people. So there's no issue here. I don't know why you're making it an issue. You're only making it an issue.
Okay.
Because you don't like Islam.
It is an issue. It is an issue because it was not a full prohibition. You're making that up because the full prohibition. Let me speak. Again, let me speak. It was not a full prohibition for all Muslims for all time when he said no drinking when it comes to prayer. You may want it to be, but it's not. Later on, Muhammad, give me time, he finally gave a full prohibition of alcohol. It makes no sense for your Allah to reveal that there's a full prohibition of alcohol, that you're not allowed to touch it whatsoever, and then people are just drinking it all the time. And he's like, whoa, no. I said you're not allowed to have it. That's Chris, how you're representing your God.
No, sir. You're making it sound like you're making
laugh at me, but that's what you're saying.
No. What you're doing, you're trying to make it sound as though that the Muslims were told, okay, hey guys, we can't come to prayer. You can't drink and come to the prayer. But every now and then you can, but try not to. No, it's the stipulation is, and the prohibition is that you cannot come to prayer in a state of intoxication. You cannot consume the alcohol. Okay, so that is a prohibition. That is a law. That is a fact. That is something that the Muslims cannot do.
So there was no more alcohol for anyone for all times then.
Huh?
So at that point, there was a full prohibition on alcohol for all Muslims for all time then, right?
The prohibition was in place. Not all Muslims lived by it. You understand that?
Okay, so at that point in time when Muhammad revealed that verse, that meant that there was a full prohibition on all Muslims at all time, that there was no more alcohol allowed to be consumed then, right?
For all of the Muslims that are coming to prayer, absolutely. A full prohibition
no,
for
no,
anyone
Kenny,
who calls
follow
themselves a
my
Muslim.
question.
If
Follow my question.
I know exactly what you're saying. Listen to what I'm telling you. For all the Muslims, every Muslim in the world, then or now, if you're coming to the prayer, don't consume alcohol, or else it's nullified. It doesn't count. You cannot.
But they could still consume it though.
Huh?
But they could still consume it though.
Well, you can still go commit adultery, go kill somebody right now too, right?
So what you're saying though, and I want to get this clear, that it is a full prohibition of the consumption of alcohol for all Muslims for all time, not just during prayers. It's for all time for all Muslims.
For all of the Muslims that are coming to the prayer, it's a full prohibition for anyone who wants to prayer. For anyone who intends to live by their obligation as Muslims to come to the prayer, you're supposed to come to the prayer. It's a full prohibition for anyone who intends and is expected to and desires to come to the prayer. It's a full prohibition. You can't drink and come to the prayer. Period.
Okay, so in saying that, the people in Muhammad's army, would it have been mandatory that they showed up for prayers?
Well, sure. Okay. But does that mean,
whoa. You just said it is a full prohibition of alcohol for all Muslims at all time that are attending prayer.
Yes.
We now know through your hadiths that there was consumption of alcohol from these Muslims that would have been commanded to be at prayer.
Okay. Right. Because people are still people, Chris. People still commit.
But if it was if it was a full, no more at all, you can't even touch it, why was it there?
Because people are still people, Chris, and they still commit sins. Right? For some people, they stop.
So then at that point, even though they were sneaking it behind Muhammad, right? So he would have never known anything about it or anything else like that, right?
Well, yeah, it's all speculation, but yeah.
Okay, so then why would he be given this next verse that you're not allowed to touch alcohol at all?
Because
it was already revealed.
Because unlike the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, our God, our Creator, knows the condition of man. Our God, our Creator, knows that despite the previous revelations that were being sent down, that people were still abusing the alcohol, abusing the opportunity. Hold on,
Wouldn't they still abuse it afterwards, though?
Huh?
Wouldn't they still abuse it after that revelation?
They still do. People still.
So then why give it?
Huh?
Then why give that revelation?
Because our God, our Creator, gives us guidance. It's up to us to choose to follow it.
But Kenny, you just said there was a full prohibition when you were not allowed to drink to go to prayer. That was a full prohibition for all Muslims at all time.
Yes, you cannot. It's prohibited. Yes.
But Muslims continued to drink.
Because Muslims are like are normal people that continue to struggle with the sin in their lives. Yes.
Excellent. So after the next verse that you were not allowed to touch alcohol again, they just still did it though, right?
Well, yeah, because people still consume alcohol.
So then why would he reveal that verse? It didn't change nothing.
Because our God, our Creator, knows us better than we know ourselves.
But it was already fully prohibited before.
And he sends down these commandments. He sends down these commandments for us to, and we have a choice in the matter. So listen, different, because this boils down to varying levels of intellect, Chris. For some people, and varying levels of obedience and varying levels of sincerity. Varying people having different degrees of intelligence. So for some people, they will take these things to heart. They will take these laws that are given, these commandments that these are given, these prohibitions that are given, and they live by them obediently. And some people don't. So we'll say it again. Okay, well, if you're going to continue to do this, here's the consequence of it, period. So, there's nothing that contradicts it.
Just one second.
Balance between early Muslims and modern day Muslims.
Just 1 second. Can you give me the consequence for a Muslim consuming alcohol not at prayer? Where's that punishment?
What do you mean, Chris? The punishment?
Muhammad revealed a verse that said you're not allowed to drink or come to prayer drunk.
Right.
Right? You're stating that that was a full prohibition of alcohol for all times.
Yes, for anyone observing the prayer. Yes.
So what was the consequence for somebody continuing to drink after that first full prohibition was given? What was the consequence?
Well, the consequence is sin. It doesn't matter what stage of the game it is. The consequence is sin. To the degree,
The consequence never really changed, even before the verse or after the verse. Then,
what do you mean nothing changed? The vast majority of Muslims in the world.
No, sir. I said the consequence didn't change before the revelation nor after the revelation, right?
Well, yeah, sin is still sin. So Allah knows how He deals with mankind and how He punishes mankind. So, I mean, the consequence is sin, nevertheless.
So if Muhammad knew somebody was drinking after the final prohibition, what was the consequence?
It's sin.
That's just it?
Well, yeah, I mean, what's He going to do? He's there to guide mankind, not to compel mankind. The Quran says, let there be no compulsion in religion. Truth has been made clear from error. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the Prophet Muhammad to simply give the guidance, just like He sent all the previous prophets. And it's up to mankind with the freedom of choice that Allah has given us to decide whether or not we're going to follow those directives or not.
So how many times in your eyes did Allah give a full prohibition of alcohol in the Quran?
Well, 3. 3 easily, because Allah says you got to keep in mind.
So let's just for a second. You believe that an all-knowing God had to reveal not to drink 3 separate times. That's what you're saying.
Well, let's put it like this. So because man is stubborn, because man wants to continue in his sin, because man continues to reject guidance, sometimes our God, our Creator, has to repeat Himself in various ways, which is why all of the prophets came to bear witness that there was only one God, and to live in obedience to Him, and to fear the consequence of the day of judgment. So because man is man, the repeated messengers have had to be sent. What's the problem?
Oh, the problem is it's just not logical, and you want to use logic here to explain stuff, but you're kind of losing in the logic department. And the class that you took at university really didn't help you in this situation at all.
Okay, so now you're attacking me instead of the argument. What I just said to you is that because mankind...
You haven't attacked my intellect at all in this conversation, Kenny?
Because mankind continues in his sin, our God, our Creator, has had to send prophet after prophet after prophet to try to guide mankind to the truth. And most of mankind, unfortunately, continues to reject. So the thing we need to recognize here is that if our God, our Creator, sent one prophet, the very, very first prophet, and eventually before the day of judgment, He's going to send His final prophet. That final prophet is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's already come, and we either going to follow the guidance of all of these prophets collectively because their message has all been consistent, or mankind is going to reject. So some people are going to adhere and take heed and say, you know what, I do fear the consequence of the day of judgment, and they're going to live in obedience because they have an intellect and a heart and a spirit within them that tells them that this is serious business. Some people are out there in the clubs right now, Chris, and our God, our Creator, has sent commandment after commandment and given opportunity after opportunity and prophet after prophet, and people are still stubborn, and people are still...
Yeah, but see, what you're trying to equate is just anybody being at a club actually adhering to what you want them to adhere to, right? Do you assume that everybody in a club right now is religious?
No. Well, what do you?
Okay, so why would the atheist care what your creator has revealed? Right? They're going to continue to do whatever they want, right?
Right, but
to say that there's a bunch of people to say there's a bunch of people at a pub right now committing sin, that's really illogical to say if they're a bunch of atheists because they don't believe they are. Right?
Well,
you just believe they are.
Well, no, hold on now. So I think you would agree with me if they're out in the club and they're living that type of lifestyle. They're out there committing sin right now. I would think that you would agree. If you don't, then that means you're condoning what they're doing.
No. You can't just preface that and not allow me to speak.
Well, no. Well, hold on.
What you're doing here is you're trying to say if you don't agree with me, then your morality isn't in the right position.
No, sir. I never said that.
I'm not going to allow you to say that because I'm sitting here on a Friday night after I took my daughter to a hockey game debating religion with you. So just to assume that maybe they are committing sin, but they don't view it as sin.
Okay, but despite that, we're going back to what we was talking about right before that, which is our God, our Creator, has still sent prophet after prophet and sent the revelations to mankind. And despite what they choose to do, our God, our Creator, has still sent them the revelation through His mercy.
I know, but you're trying to equate atheists with God's revelation and these Muslims that followed Muhammad. It's a completely different situation.
What are you talking? How can it be, Chris? We're still the same human race. We're still the same people. What are you talking about? We still need guidance today, just like they needed guidance then. Some people are going to take and accept the guidance. Some people aren't.
So an atheist has to go by this guidance that you're speaking of.
No, the Quran says, let there be no compulsion in religion. Truth has been made clear from error. This is demonstrating in the tafsir that you have a choice in the matter. Either, let there be no compulsion in religion. We're not going to force you to do anything. Muslims can't force anyone to do anything, nor are Muslims trying to force anything. I'm not trying to tell you to believe what I believe, Chris, and I'm just trying to tell you what I believe. Truth has been made clear from error. So either you're going to follow the commandments, either you're going to follow the commandments given to the prophet Moses, peace and blessing be upon him, or you're not. You're either going to follow the commandments of Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, Jesus the son of Mary, or you're not. You're going to follow the prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, or you're not.
Can I, just 1 second, you keep saying you're either going to follow the teachings of Jesus and whatnot, or you're not. Can you give me the teachings of Jesus?
Yes.
Where would you look for?
He was asked by one of his disciples, good master.
No. 1 second, Kenny. 1 second. Where would you look as a Muslim for the teachings of Jesus?
Well, I have to look into the Quran, and let me tell you why.
Now,
we have the original.
Excuse me here, Kenny. Did Jesus speak Arabic?
Nobody spoke Aramaic.
But he didn't speak Arabic, though, right?
Nobody spoke
in the Quran. In the Quran, when Jesus is supposedly speaking, is it Arabic or Aramaic?
He spoke Aramaic.
In your Quran, when Jesus is supposed to speak, is it in Aramaic or Arabic?
Jesus spoke Aramaic.
Again, when Jesus is quoted in your Quran, are his words in Arabic or Aramaic?
Jesus spoke Aramaic, Chris.
You're not answering my question, Kenny, and I understand why you're trying to avoid it.
No, use a little bit of logic. Jesus spoke Aramaic.
You use a little bit of logic. If Jesus never spoke Arabic, how do you have Jesus' words in Arabic in your Quran? They would have been revealed to Muhammad in Arabic.
Chris, you have red letter Bibles that are supposedly have the words of Jesus.
Okay, but without going to the Bible.
Hold on.
Without going to the Bible, I asked you as a Muslim. I asked
I'm
you,
telling
the
you,
Muslim, where you would
I'm
go.
asking
You said
you
the
that
Quran.
Jesus spoke Aramaic. The Quran is just an explanation of what took place. The Quran doesn't say that Jesus spoke Arabic, but he did speak the Aramaic language,
Sure
which
does.
is
Any
the sister
words,
language of Arabic.
any words that were given to or revealed to Muhammad that Jesus would have said is in Arabic. Prove to me Allah revealed this in Aramaic to Muhammad. Please.
Chris, Jesus
You
spoke
can't.
Aramaic. The Quran doesn't say that Jesus spoke Arabic. No, the Quran is revealed in the
You're
Arabic
not
language.
listening to me, Kenny.
I am listening to you.
What dialect was the revelation given to Muhammad in?
7 different dialects.
The Arabic language, the 7 different dialects in the Arabic language.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Would Jesus's words that was revealed by Allah to Muhammad be in those 7 different ones of Arabic?
Jesus didn't speak Arabic. Jesus spoke Arabic.
Again, I didn't say he did. I didn't say he did or didn't. Please answer the question.
The words that are revealed that Jesus has stated.
Kenny, let me ask the question and please answer the actual question. When Allah revealed to Muhammad what Jesus would have said, did he reveal it in these 7 different dialects of Arabic, or did he reveal it in Aramaic to Muhammad?
He revealed it to Muhammad in Arabic. What's the problem?
Why?
Because Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was an Arab.
But that's not the language that Jesus spoke.
No, Jesus spoke Aramaic.
So he didn't speak Arabic.
No one ever made the claim that Jesus spoke Arabic.
Excellent. So any person that says that the Greek in the New Testament isn't Jesus's words because he spoke Aramaic, you basically just refuted their argument by saying the same thing about the Quran then, right?
That makes no sense, Chris.
Thank you.
It
does.
No, it doesn't.
Of course it does.
No,
You cannot argue.
No
You
Muslims
cannot
made the
argue
argument.
that the New Testament is written in Greek, so it can't have the words of Jesus in it. But yet your Quran is in Arabic, and it does have the words of Jesus in it.
Well,
You don't see the double standard?
no, I see what you're trying to do, which is.
And you see the logical fallacy in it, of course, too,
there's
right?
no logical fallacy here. It's
Of course there
unfortunate
is.
that you're so desperate that you've gone to that. I mean, seriously, because what it boils down to, you're talking about 25,000 different manuscripts that don't match one another. And in the Jesus seminar, the 150 scholars that
Yeah, Kenny, can you
on
show
that.
me a full Quran from
Hold
Muhammad's
on.
time?
You're scared of that, right? You're scared of that.
Can you show me a full Quran from Muhammad's time?
Yeah, we have it
No,
right now.
you can't.
Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. We have the full Quran right now.
No, you don't.
Yes, sir, we do.
Prove it.
It's check all the Islamic sources.
Okay, just saying it is not proving it. Prove you have the original that Muhammad had.
Now you're all over the place. You got put in your place during this conversation. Alhamdulillah.
How did I get put in my place when you just showed
you've been so illogical?
You have no idea what you're talking about, and you use logical fallacies, and you don't even know what they are.
No, sir.
But yet you claim you were this university student studying hardcore in this topic that we're speaking about.
Yes.
And you knew nothing. You had no evidence from your Islamic sources for what you said.
Is sources for what, Chris? You want sources
for anything you've said. You tried to quote one hadith, and it was the wrong one.
No, it wasn't. It still applied to.
It was. You admitted it. It was the wrong one in here.
No.
I'm glad this is going up because now
it was the wrong one in regards to that particular question, but it still applies to abrogation of alcohol and the discussion about alcohol. It still applies.
This is funny. So anyways, you have yourself a good night.
You're getting very desperate. Alhamdulillah. Whenever truth comes, falsehood must flee. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.